Шановні колеги, всім доброго дня.
Dear colleagues, good afternoon. We continue our working day in the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. The topic of our current event is as follows, summing up the visit of the special representative of the federal government of Germany to Ukraine. We have Mr. Gernot Erler, the special representative of the federal government of Germany for the OSCE Chairmanship and coordinator for Intersocietal cooperation with Russia, Central Asia, and Eastern Partnership countries. And we have Mr. Vaidotas Verba, the OSCE project coordinator in Ukraine, and I give the floor to Mr. Gernot Erler. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my gratitude for the attendance of this meeting and to apologize for late arrival. We had a very interesting round table and it required a bit more of our time that we planned from the very beginning. First of all, I would like to mention my trip around Ukraine. Yesterday, I visited Severodonetsk and participated in the forum where we discussed the building up and reconstruction and discussed the dialogue. I attended the final podium discussion. Today we had the discussion on OSCE participation in reconciliation process in Ukraine. We had the government representatives and civil society organizations at this roundtable. Yesterday in Severodonetsk, I met with the special monitoring mission of OSCE, and we discussed the situation at the so-called along the contact line. Also had meetings with a set of civil society organizations, and today, later at night, I will have a meeting with journalists, and after that mass media session, I will have also an additional meeting with the OSCE representatives. And today, in presence of His Excellency Ambassador Verba, I would like to discuss the role of PCU. The OSCE projects here are being implemented in a situation of reforming process, and we believe that reforming process could work perfectly when there is a dialogue with population, when this dialogue is transparent, when there is a communication based on mutual trust. Actually, this is classical topic discussed in the OSCE, and our project coordination is best fitting this role. Today, we discussed very much the role of civil society in course of our roundtable, and all this fits perfectly to the Germany chairmanship in the OSCE this year, because we believe that a success is possible with broad and strong involvement of the civil society organization in reforming process, and with a strong engagement of youth to this process. And yesterday in Severodonetsk, I was very pleased to see many civil society organizations and young people. Also back in 2016, Germany took responsibility for the OSCE chairmanship, and but we conscientiously took this responsibility And we did this clearly understanding that the conflict could not be resolved via military ways and only via diplomatic methods. And when we come to this diplomatic means, it comes to the question, what methods of pressure can we have upon aggressor? And these are sanctions, and we should always remember that sanctions are part to the process of peaceful resolution of the conflict, and unless Russia does what it promised to do, what it had promised to do, the mechanism of sanctions would be remaining. The OSCE mission is playing bilateral role. The first was what I mentioned about PCU. Then we have a special monitoring mission of the OSCE in Ukraine. This monitoring mission is inevitable because without this mission we are unable to monitor and to understand what's going on in the conflict area. And this is a very important role of the monitoring mission, to monitor what's going on. At the same time, the monitoring mission has another important role. They try to make the life of people in the contact area and along the contact line more bearable, so to say, more appropriate for life. For example, they negotiate all necessary everyday repairs of the damaged pipelines, water supply networks, electricity networks, etc. That is, we try to condemn all people who try to put under threat the activities of these people from monitoring mission. Sometimes we experience threats and we won't observe this quietly. Another part of our work, this is Minsk, participation in Minsk negotiations. I believe that Minsk process is the basis for peaceful negotiation which is going on based on Normandy format between Germany, France, Ukraine and Russia. Without this, the reconciliation process won't be possible. And the sixth point, which I would like to touch today, is the implementation of Minsk agreements. During the latest period of time, we had been observing appointment of new dates about ceasefire, about the regime of quietness, silence, etc. But this did not happen neither on September 1st nor later. So we have to apply quality new approach to the contact line. And we have introduced Troitsky, Zolote and Stanitsa Luganska checkpoints and to approach to them as to the small islands of silence. Thus, we try to create these silence points and later gradually to extend this silence points broader along the contact line. This was another chance of ceasefire implementation, without which the implementation of Minsk agreements won't be possible. This is another serious initiative which we hope is rather promising. Also, we should clearly understand that Minsk agreements should be implemented by the end of the year, and Germany hopes that at least that we will manage to do this by the end of the year, at least when it comes to the withdrawal of troops. Probably we won't manage to resolve the problem fully, but we should have the patience and be ready to transfer this task to Austria, who will take chairmanship after Germany, and they are ready to contribute to this work in order to make to establish peace and find political solution based on political agreements. That is what I wish to say. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Verba. Russian language is one of the official languages in the OSCE, and that's why I will speak Russian. Mr. Erler described the political field in much detail, the political field of the OSCE world work in Ukraine. I would like to describe the work of the mission, which has been working here in Ukraine for some period of time already. From the very beginning, one short remark. The political leadership in the OSCE is carried out via the country which takes chairmanship in the OSCE. As of the moment, this chairman country consolidates the political will of the member countries, and then via coordinators of projects and via the Bureau on Democratic institutions and human rights, and while the High Commissioner on minorities' rights implements this policy. So yesterday's visit of Mr. Erler proves that Ukraine is one of the priorities for German chairmanship this year, just as it was set at the political level and at the local level here in the country. In the following issues, providing assistance to Ukraine in respect of the commitments taken by Ukraine on the OSCE framework. I believe that during our visit to Severodonetsk, we managed to see the situation from very close perspective. We managed to see that what is practical work of the OSCE there, as the project coordinator of OSCE, we assist the country in implementation of our projects and in many other issues. For OSCE, it is really important that the OSCE expertise and services are demanded by the country. The OSCE is not a type of organization which tries to impose its expertise upon the country. Usually we work jointly with our Ukrainian partners and exclusively upon the request of these Ukrainian partners. This is a specific emphasis of all our work because we always believe that we deliver what is requested by the partner party. I've been working in this position of the project coordinator for 2 years and 1 month now, and I can say that during the last 18 months I observed that willingness and readiness of the Ukrainian stakeholders to get expertise from OSCE had grown considerably. I'm probably a very cautious optimist, but I would like to say that Ukraine is not the country which is doing nothing in terms of reforming. Maybe I will answer to your questions more specifically, but at this point I would like to say that I observe progress in many areas, and this makes our assistance even more demanded here in Ukraine. I would like to mention that today's chairman of the OSCE became even more strongly convinced in the decisions which were made by the political council at the political level, that they were right, that those decisions are working in one direction for the same objective, and although we are to some extent autonomous unit of the OSCE, nevertheless we all work for the same objective. Also, I would like to underscore that yesterday when we visited Severodonetsk, it was not like a show organized just for the visit of our chairman, but it was a regular event, one of those regular events which we have been having for 18 months in the country. I think that such regular events and course of the dialogue and the need of this dialogue is obvious, and I believe that what we are doing, we are contributing to the dialogue between central authorities and local communities. At the same time, you understand that the east of the country now has multiple problems related to the people residing in governmentally controlled territories, and at the same time east of Ukraine has a lot of problems related to the people living in non-controlled territories, and our office does not exclude these people too from the possibility to participate in our events. Maybe you will have further questions about our specific projects, but I would stop here. Dear speakers, dear audience, you may ask questions now to our speakers in any language, in Ukrainian, in German, in English, as you wish. Sayenka Vitaly, Union News Agency. My question is to Mr. Gernot Erler. As far as I know, recently there was a meeting of the Normandy 4 representatives in Berlin, and they mentioned that they are creating a roadmap for implementation of the Minsk agreements. And additionally, later, President Poroshenko added that there is an understanding about placing the military mission or police mission. Could you develop more about possibility of placing the police mission and about the roadmap, what it can comprise in terms of pushing Russian Federation to do what they need to do? Thank you very much for your question. You're right. On October 18th in Berlin, on the framework of four-lateral meeting, the response was given to the difficulties with implementation of 14 items of Minsk agreements. The document which was produced in result of that, in the document there is a specific sequence of a Minsk 2, I mean document Minsk 2. There are 14 items, but it provided for different sequence of the implementation, and this resulted with misunderstandings between Ukrainian party, Russian party, and representatives of the people's so-called People's Republics. Now, the representatives of the parties have a chance to sit around the table and to discuss what should be done first, second, the third, etc. And thus to negotiate the exact sequence of steps. That's a tough task for the ministers of foreign affairs, which have to do this. And we know the opinion of the Ukrainian party, which was presented during the meeting. This is revival of Ukrainian sovereignty and restoration of regaining of control over the border, and it's a logical demand, logical request. Without this, we cannot move forward. But as of today, it is item number 9 in Minsk agreements, and the Minsk agreement says that this has to happen only after elections and changes to constitution. So that now we try to remove this real obstacle from Minsk agreements. Ukrainian president, after the meeting, expressed opinion about the police mission, but this was not at the front line of negotiations in Berlin, but there is also the context of this mission. Such a mission should provide for proper elections in the area. If there is, but the mission should be placed upon consensus between the Russian party, Ukrainian party, and the so-called republics. And unfortunately, here there is a broad area of opinions. Ukraine has been standing for the police mission. Armored police mission based on the OSCE framework. This is a novelty for us, and we never had such a mission. We need to get a consent from all member countries. and Ukraine wishes to have 120,000 members of such a police mission, and we have to imagine how much time it would take. It took us a long time to mobilize 700-800 of our mission representatives for the monitoring mission. So now, when speaking about police mission, we are trying to understand how much effort it might require from us. Крістіан Шиц, австрійське телебачення. Я відвідав Луганськ, Донецьк. I visited Donetsk and Lugansk and tried to understand how far Donetsk and Luhansk from Ukraine now. They try to integrate to Russian system of education, to the industrial relations, etc. Whether for OSCE it is possible to hinder somehow that disintegration of their territories from Ukraine and their integration in Russian Federation. And I would like to ask a question about humanitarian integration to Ukraine, cultural integration, because the situation may become worsen after another 2 years. I would like to add that from the other side, from the very beginning, the perception of the occupied territories was different. Ukrainian perception is that many people in the occupied territories still believe that they belong to Ukrainian state. I know that some measures were taken here. I think that position of the OSCE here is quite clear. The Russian Federation had violated the provisions of the Helsinki Final Act and the Paris agreements and the Budapest Memorandum from 1994. They simply put aside all those documents and do not take all those documents into consideration. So our requirement is as follows. Russia should came back to the point when Russia recognized that documents which Russia signed many years ago. This is a clear position of the OSCE. But at the same time, we observe that this won't help if we will condemn one of the parties all the time. If we wish to reach reconciliation, we should have a dialogue, and we continuously emphasize that. That this is the biggest conflict between Russia and the West, and the beginning of it was the situation in the east of Ukraine. We can do nothing specifically or directly in terms of what you mentioned, but we can only try to establish a dialogue, because Russia keeps saying we are not participant to this conflict, we are not party to the conflict, we are just a mediator in the conflict. But at the same time, the Russian representatives are present at the Minsk negotiation. They are members of the contact group, and they sit around the table jointly with the Ukrainian party, the members of so-called republics, although they keep saying that we have no relation to this conflict. This is purely intra-Ukrainian affair. So this is the point when OSCE tries to use this in order to reach reconciliation.
Future. Take care. Шановні колеги, на цьому
Dear colleagues, with this, the working day in the UCMC is over. The information about tomorrow's schedule